Welcome to Could It Exist in Real Life, where one person's waste of time is another person's learning experience. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening is another unique game. Much like Link to the Past, it was the first game of its respective console, Past being for Super NES and Awakening being for Game Boy. Unlike Link to the Past, it wasn't the only game for the Game Boy game, but I'll get to that later. Also, it's the first game to not involve Princess Zelda. Nope, this game was all about Link and his quest to become a better warrior. It starts with Link sailing across the seas. Where he got a boat is a mystery to me, but it doesn't last too long. He finds himself sailing through rough waters, and a thunderstorm knocks him off the boat into the nearby Koholint Island. He is found by a girl named Marin and her father Terran, who wake him up. They tell him where he is right now, and he already wants to leave. I wouldn't blame him. If I was washed up on an island and taken to a room I don't know where, while I was sleeping, I'd want to leave too. Well, on the plus side, at least the girl isn't named Annie Wilkes. Anywho, as he tries to leave the island, but could not, he is told that in order to leave the island he must wake the windfish, who is housed in a giant egg and requires 8 musical instruments to waken him from his eternal slumber. Of course, that would be a piece of cake. However, he finds out the horrible truth. The island is a dream world, and everyone he has met, fought, or made friends with are all an illusion in his mind. And if he wakes the windfish, they will all die. To make matters worse, if he doesn't wake the windfish, not only would he be trapped, there's an evil being called the Nightmare trying to take over the island. Long story short, if he wins, they die. If he loses, they die. Now on to the fun part. Could it exist in real life? Now this one's going to be a short one because many of the items of this game are the same as the previous ones. Let's start with the following. First of all, the entire game is in a dream world. That's obvious. However, many elements of said dream world can exist in the real world since they are part of your own mind. This also helps explain in the game that despite Link, and to an extent the player, dying, he comes back. Case in point, the secret medicine. This shares the same properties as the potion, for it could heal a person. However, unlike most potions in the previous game which are drank, this one is actually rubbed onto the body. There are many medicines, both over-the-counter and holistic, that have healing properties. However, each heal differently depending on what you use. First is hydrogen peroxide and rubbing alcohol. These two are designed to clean out the wounds, allowing them to heal uninfected. The second is aloe vera. When rubbed onto the skin, it prevents scarring the flesh. And the last is vitamin E, which moisturizes and hydrates the skin, preventing imperfection. Since Link is practically being cut and scratched by monsters and bad guys alike, it's obvious the potion shares traits from all three. And since it's a dream world, it actually shares the traits all in one bottle. Next is the ocarina. I ignored the one in Link to the Past for 2 reasons. One is the obvious. Due to mistranslation, the ocarina in Past was called a flute. So in North America, on a technicality, it's not an ocarina. 2, I couldn't find a logical explanation to how a duck could transport a grown person to different landmarks. However, for both Past and Awakening, I do have good reasoning for how the other functions work. For the duck, many animals can hear noises from faraway places. If one were trained to respond to a certain song, depending on their hearing range, they'd be able to follow said song to you. As for waking things up, that's a different story. When an animal or a person is in a state of REM, also known as random eye movement, which is a type of sleep state, waking them up by shaking them or even yelling would not work, and in the process could damage them physically in the ears. When responding to a certain sound or song, however, they'd be wakened as easy as being wakened by a loud noise, much like alarm clocks. Last but not least is not an item, but an animal called a chain chomp. In this game, Bow Wow, which is a chain chomp, which is essentially a ball with teeth on a leash, becomes crucial to Link's quest in 2 ways. 1 is that it needs rescuing, and 2, as a favor to the owner, Link has to walk him. This proves to be a good idea, for it can destroy monsters that Link can't take on. Could it exist in real life? Yes and no. While the chain chomp itself is impossible to make, unless you know the right splicer, the animal itself is a mix between 2. One is a piranha, due to its lack of limbs and razor-sharp teeth, and the other is a dog. As for why Bow Wow would attack monsters, it's pretty obvious. Why? Because dogs will defend owners or those they trust enough to go near. This I know from experience. Now, since this is a short post, I'll put one more thing about this game that could be possible in real life. While it is a game, and Link can always come back since it's a dream world, however, had he not wakened the windfish, he would have died on the long run. For while you cannot die in your dreams, you can still die while dreaming. When his boat crashed, he was knocked unconscious on an island, with no way of waking to get food, shelter, or water. If he had been sleeping for more than a week, starvation, dehydration, and depending on the weather, hypothermia or heat stroke would have killed him slowly and painfully while he was unconscious. This gives a whole new meaning to Link's Awakening. For this time, he wasn't trying to save Hyrule. He wasn't trying to save its people. He wasn't even trying to save Princess Zelda. This time, he was fighting to save himself. As usual, debate, argue, and let me know what I missed. Stay tuned for more.